Why is Southeast Asia rising while the West struggles? Decades ago, Kuan Yew predicted a global power shift that many dismissed. Today, his warning is becoming reality. What did he see that others ignored? And can the West still adapt, or is decline inevitable? For centuries, the West dominated globally, economically, politically, and culturally. But now it faces economic stagnation, political division, and declining trust in institutions. Meanwhile, Southeast Asia is surging ahead with rapid growth, innovation, and strategic leadership. Kuan Yew, who transformed Singapore into a global powerhouse, foresaw this decades ago. He warned that while the West became complacent, Southeast Asia was quietly building a new economic and geopolitical order. What's driving this shift? Is the West losing its edge, or can it still recover? In this video, we'll explore 1. Why is Southeast Asia thriving while the West falters? 2. How did Kuan Yew foresee this transformation? 3. What must the West learn to stay competitive? By diving into Lee's insights and real-world trends, we'll uncover why the future of global power may not be where we once expected. Southeast Asia's economic rise is no coincidence. It's the result of disciplined, long-term planning. While Western economies are mired in debt and political gridlock, nations like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia are steadily transforming into economic powerhouses. Kuan Yew emphasized the region's commitment to stability and growth over short-term gains. In Singapore, Lee championed policies that drew in foreign investment, cultivated a highly skilled workforce, and created a pro-business environment. These principles are now spreading across Southeast Asia, laying the foundation for sustained progress. Meanwhile, the West often falls victim to partisan politics and reactive decision-making, which Lee warned could lead to stagnation. He argued that overconfidence in outdated systems leaves Western nations blind to their vulnerabilities, while Southeast Asia's adaptability in global trade, technology, and education fuels its ascent. But this transformation isn't just economic, it's cultural. United by discipline and ambition, the region is poised to outpace countries still clinging to past achievements. In the next section, we'll explore how cultural values drive this growth and why Lee believed they give Southeast Asia a distinct advantage on the world stage. At the heart of Southeast Asia's ascent are its cultural values, which Kuan Yew saw as the bedrock of its success. In stark contrast to the individualism that characterizes much of the West, Southeast Asia prioritizes collective well-being, discipline, and respect for authority. These cultural traits foster trust and social cohesion, essential ingredients for stability and long-term growth. Strong family ties and community-oriented values inspire people to work towards shared goals rather than personal ambition. In the West, however, growing divisions and a focus on self-interest have eroded trust in institutions. Lee warned that societies that prioritize individual freedoms at the expense of collective responsibility risk stagnation and disunity. Southeast Asia's governments have earned public trust by delivering tangible results: economic growth, improved infrastructure, and social progress, without the constant disruption of political deadlock. Lee viewed this cultural unity as a competitive edge, especially in today's volatile, interconnected world. Next, we'll delve into how the region's embrace of globalization and innovation has further cemented its role as a rising global force. Southeast Asia's rise isn't just cultural, it's also fueled by bold economic strategies and innovation. Kuan Yew recognized that thriving in a competitive global economy requires an open approach to trade, investment, and talent. Under Lee's leadership, Singapore became a global hub for trade and finance. This transformation from a struggling city-state to an economic powerhouse inspired other nations in the region to adopt similar strategies. In contrast, Western nations increasingly grapple with protectionism and political gridlock, which stifle economic progress. While Southeast Asia attracts foreign investors and fosters strong public-private partnerships, the West often debates the merits of globalization, halting forward momentum. A crucial driver of Southeast Asia's growth is its focus on technology and innovation. Countries like Vietnam and Indonesia are emerging as tech hubs, attracting both startups and multinational corporations. Regional governments actively invest in digital infrastructure, education, and connectivity, paving the way for sustained growth. Lee's vision was clear. Globalization is not a threat, it's an opportunity. While the West struggles with internal divisions, Southeast Asia's outward-facing policies and innovative mindset continue to fuel its ascent. Kuan Yew had a remarkable ability to foresee global trends, including the West's decline. Decades ago, he warned that complacency, internal divisions, and overconfidence were eroding the West's dominance. He pointed out that frequent elections and political gridlock in Western democracies often derailed long-term planning. Leaders focused on short-term gains to appease voters and special interests, sacrificing progress for immediate rewards. Lee also criticized the West's overemphasis on individual freedoms, which in his view hindered collective progress and bold reforms in critical areas like infrastructure and education. Meanwhile, Southeast Asia's leaders prioritized stability and development, creating a foundation for sustained growth. These weren't mere criticisms, but warnings. Without unified leadership and long-term planning, Lee saw stagnation as inevitable for the West, a prediction that resonates strongly today. Next, we'll explore how Lee's vision for Southeast Asia became a blueprint for its rapid transformation. Kuan Yew's vision for Southeast Asia revolved around disciplined leadership. For him, leadership meant making tough, often unpopular decisions to secure long-term progress. This approach became the foundation for the region's transformation. In Singapore, Lee championed stability, transparency, and meritocracy. Leaders were chosen based on ability, not connections, enabling Singapore to become a global hub for trade, finance, and innovation, despite limited resources. Other Southeast Asian nations adopted similar principles. Vietnam and Indonesia prioritized foreign investment, modernized infrastructure, and embraced export-driven growth, tailoring Singapore's model to their unique challenges. Lee often contrasted Southeast Asia's decisive approach with the West's political dysfunction, where progress was frequently stalled by partisan conflicts. By acting boldly and planning for the long term, Southeast Asian leaders gained a competitive edge as globalization created new opportunities. For Lee, leadership was more than governance. It was a mindset. Leaders who prioritized the collective good over personal ambition propelled Southeast Asia's rise, offering lessons the West could learn from. Next, we'll explore how these leadership principles translated into economic growth, cementing Southeast Asia's global prominence. Leadership alone isn't enough. Kuan Yew believed that investing in people was essential for a nation's success. Education and human capital were central to his vision. He famously said, "A nation's progress depends on its ability to develop its people." Under Lee's leadership, Singapore placed education at the core of its development strategy. Schools became engines for creating a skilled workforce ready to compete globally. By aligning education with industry needs, Singapore prepared its people for high-growth sectors like technology and finance. This emphasis on human capital extended across Southeast Asia. Nations like Malaysia and Vietnam improved literacy rates, expanded vocational training, and increased access to higher education. The result was a new generation of skilled workers who fueled the region's rapid economic growth. Lee often compared this with the West, where rising education costs and declining outcomes hinder progress. Southeast Asia's focus on efficiency and market-aligned skills positioned the region as a dynamic, forward-thinking force on the global stage. By fostering a culture of learning and adaptability, Southeast Asia laid the foundation for sustained growth and innovation. Next, we'll examine how these investments in leadership and human capital translated into groundbreaking economic strategies. Southeast Asia's economic success is rooted in pragmatic strategies inspired by Kuan Yew. He championed embracing globalization while balancing state control with free market principles, creating a blueprint for growth. Singapore exemplified this approach by becoming a global trade hub. With low taxes, political stability, and a corruption-free government, it attracted multinational corporations. Inspired by Singapore, nations like Malaysia and Vietnam diversified their economies by focusing on export-driven industries such as electronics and agriculture, reducing reliance on single sectors. Unlike the West, where infrastructure development is often stalled by delays and gridlock, Southeast Asia prioritized building ports, railways, and airports to enhance trade and connectivity. These investments in infrastructure position the region as a resilient force in the global economy. What truly distinguishes Southeast Asia is how its leaders align these strategies with long-term vision and cultural values, a topic we'll delve into next. Southeast Asia's cultural foundations, discipline, community, and respect for education have played a pivotal role in its rise. Kuan Yew argued that a nation's success depends as much on its cultural values as on its policies. The region prioritizes collective well-being over individualism, fostering societal harmony. This cultural cohesion allows governments to pursue long-term strategies without being derailed by populist disruptions. Education is another cornerstone. Nations like Singapore aligned education with economic needs, emphasizing meritocracy and producing a workforce that thrives globally. Strong family bonds also reinforce social stability. They provide a safety net and instill accountability, contrasting with the West's growing social fragmentation. Leaders in Southeast Asia gain legitimacy not through rhetoric, but by delivering tangible results, an approach epitomized by Lee's results-oriented governance. By harnessing these cultural strengths, Southeast Asia has built a foundation for sustained stability and growth. But culture alone isn't enough. Effective leadership and strategic foresight are equally critical, an aspect explored in the next section. Southeast Asia's ascent is driven by a blend of long-term vision and pragmatic governance, a principle Kuan Yew championed. To Lee, leadership wasn't about clinging to power. It was about delivering results that improve citizens' lives. In Singapore, Lee implemented forward-thinking policies that prioritize sustainable growth. This model inspired nations like Vietnam and Indonesia, which strategically invested in infrastructure, education, and technology to ensure their long-term progress. Unlike the West, where short-term election cycles often hinder reforms, Southeast Asia's leaders consistently prioritize the future over immediate political gains. Lee also championed adaptability as a key to effective governance. While the West often faces delays and debates, Southeast Asian governments act decisively to address challenges like shifting trade dynamics and technological disruptions. Public trust is another cornerstone of this success. Lee believed transparency and results were vital for maintaining legitimacy. By fulfilling promises and prioritizing public welfare, Southeast Asian leaders have built trust that enables transformative change. This fusion of vision, pragmatism, and adaptability has propelled Southeast Asia forward, providing valuable lessons for the West as it navigates a rapidly evolving global landscape. Southeast Asia's rise is no coincidence. It's the product of visionary leadership, disciplined cultural values, and strategic governance. Kuan Yew's insights into long-term planning, adaptability, and the power of investing in people have shaped the region into a global force. Meanwhile, the West grapples with political stagnation and short-term thinking, underscoring the critical lessons Southeast Asia offers the world. The question now isn't just how Southeast Asia rose, but what the West can learn before it's too late. As Kuan Yew warned, nations that fail to adapt are destined to fall behind. If you found this story insightful, don't miss our next video exploring how Southeast Asia's innovations are redefining global power. Subscribe now and join the conversation in the comments. Let us know what you think the West must do to stay competitive.